April 7, 1943, Rabaul Air Base, New Britain. Lieutenant Colonel Takeshi Yamamoto lifted the intelligence photograph, his weathered fingers leaving slight impressions on the glossy paper. His eyes narrowed at the bulky silhouette captured by reconnaissance. "Look at this," Yamamoto said, tossing the photo onto the bamboo table with contempt. "The Americans have built a fighter that weighs as much as a medium bomber." Captain Hiroshi Nakamura leaned forward, his lips curling into a smile. 7 tons, they expect this pig to dogfight our Zeros." Lieutenant Kenji Tanaka, intelligence liaison from Combined Fleet Headquarters, set down his teacup carefully. "The reports indicate unprecedented firepower and diving performance. We should not dismiss." But Yamamoto waved him off with a sharp gesture. "We've destroyed their P-40s at ratios of 8-1, their P-39s at 6-1, their Wildcats at 7-1. This overweight monster will be easier prey." At Darwin, 0 pilots had achieved 12 kills without loss. At Port Moresby, 14-1. Over the Solomons, 9-1. The mathematics were undeniable. Japanese pilot training, aircraft agility, and combat doctrine had created categorical supremacy across the Pacific theater. What Yamamoto didn't know, what none of them could have known as they studied reconnaissance photos in that humid operations bunker, was that the P-47 Thunderbolt would destroy Japanese air superiority within 18 months. The numbers would become catastrophic. 11 1-kill ratios. 15,636 P-47's produced. 3,752 Japanese aircraft destroyed by P-47s alone. The contempt in that Rabaul briefing room would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 5,163 Japanese pilots killed by an aircraft they had dismissed as too heavy to fight. The mocker, Lieutenant Colonel Takeshi Yamamoto, commanding 204th Air Group, 17 confirmed kills, graduate of elite Tsuchiura Air Corps training program, veteran of China Campaign and Pearl Harbor attack. His Zero had 54 combat missions without damage. The Warner, Lieutenant Kenji Tanaka, intelligence liaison, Naval Staff College graduate, fluent in English, assigned to analyze American production capacity. His reports consistently highlighted expanding U.S. manufacturing. The Witness, Flight Petty Officer Saburo Ishikawa, ace pilot with 14 kills, 8 years service, survivor of Midway and Guadalcanal campaigns. His logbook documented 312 combat hours against American aircraft. At Rabaul, Yamamoto's squadron had achieved 43 confirmed kills in March alone. The ratio stood at 9, 1 against P-38's, 7, 1 against P-40's, 12, 1 against F-4F Wildcats. Japanese A6M20 specifications supported this dominance. Maximum speed 331 mph, service ceiling 33,000 feet, range 1,929 miles, turn radius 50 feet at combat speed. Recent American failures reinforced confidence. The P-39 Airacobra had proven disastrous at low altitude. The P-40 Warhawk couldn't climb above 25,000 feet effectively. The F-4F Wildcat lost every turning engagement. Yamamoto's personal record included 6 P-40s destroyed, 4 F-4FS, 3 P-39s, and 4 B-17 bomber escorts shot down. His tactics manual was distributed throughout the combined fleet. His pilots trained daily in air combat maneuvering that emphasized the Zero's superior turning ability. Tanaka brought production reports to the evening briefing. American aircraft production increased to 4,780 units in March. Republic Aviation's Farmingdale facility is producing, Yamamoto interrupted. How many did we produce? 842 aircraft total, sir. Then they produce more waste than we produce aircraft. This changes nothing. Our pilots are superior, our tactics proven, our aircraft designed for the combat we face. Ishikawa nodded from his seat near the wall. He had personally destroyed 3 American fighters the previous week. Each engagement had confirmed what training taught: turn inside the enemy, use superior maneuverability, exploit pilot inexperience. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Farmingdale, New York, February 1943. Alexander Kartveli stood beside the final assembly line as another P-47D rolled toward flight testing. Republic Aviation's main facility produced 17 aircraft daily. Every 8 hours, another Thunderbolt completed final inspection. In September 1941, America produced just 43 P-47 prototypes monthly. By December 1942, production reached 284 monthly. By February 1943, The Farmingdale facility was producing 476 monthly from this single location. This single facility was producing more than Japan's entire fighter aircraft industry. Dorothy Henderson, previously a seamstress at Macy's department store in Manhattan, now operated a riveting station producing 1,847 rivets per shift on P-47 fuselage sections. She worked the night shift, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., alongside 340 other women on the fuselage line. Her station completed 12 fuselage panels per shift. She produced more structural components in one shift than Japan's Nakajima factory produced for its entire daily zero output. The Nakajima plant employed 4,200 workers and produced 6 aircraft daily. Dorothy's single riveting station, part of a line of 96 identical stations, contributed to 17 complete aircraft daily. Her productivity, multiplied across one facility, exceeded Japan's primary fighter production by nearly 3 to 1. Robert Washington, from Detroit, Michigan, operated the engine installation equipment bay that mounted Pratt & Whitney R-2800 engines into airframes. His team installed 19 engines per shift. Each engine produced 2,000 horsepower, weighed 2,360 pounds, and cost $25,000. His single station's daily output of 19 engines, operating 2 shifts, meant 38 engines installed daily. This exceeded the total number of aircraft engines Japan's Mitsubishi and Nakajima plants combined could produce in a single day. Japan's entire aviation engine industry produced approximately 32 engines daily across all facilities. Robert's single installation bay in Farmingdale, one of 4 identical bays, outproduced Japan's entire engine manufacturing capacity. Charles Wilson, $1-a-year man from General Electric, managed the turbo supercharger integration program. The General Electric turbo supercharger gave the P-47 performance at altitudes where Japanese fighters suffocated. Each unit cost $1,400 and weighed 270 pounds. Wilson's team installed 17 per day. The manufacturing knowledge required to produce these systems simply didn't exist in Japanese industry. Americans discarded 847 pounds of aluminum shavings and trimmings daily from the Farmingdale facility. Japan allocated 320 pounds of aluminum monthly to its entire Rabaul maintenance facility. The waste from a single day's P-47 production exceeded Japan's combat theater allocation for an entire month. Workers threw away defective rivets by the bucket. A single bucket contained approximately 2,400 rivets. Japan rationed rivets by count to forward maintenance facilities. One discarded bucket from Farmingdale contained more rivets than Rabaul received in a week. The cafeteria at Republic Aviation discarded more beef daily than Rabaul's 12,000 personnel received monthly. Daily cafeteria waste included 340 pounds of food. Rabaul's meat allocation was 180 pounds monthly for all personnel. American factory workers ate better than Japanese combat pilots. Defective .50 caliber ammunition from testing exceeded Japan's monthly allocation for 3 air bases. Quality control testing at Republic fired 50,000 rounds weekly verifying gun synchronization. Rabaul, Lee, and Wewak air bases combined received 42,000 rounds monthly. The waste from single-day production of P-47 fuel tanks, approximately 47 defective or damaged tanks discarded, could have supplied Japan's entire Pacific fuel reserve for 2 days at current consumption rates. Tanaka appeared at the intelligence briefing in Rabaul on May 2, carrying his latest production analysis. American fighter production now exceeds 5,000 monthly across all types. Republic Aviation alone produces more fighters monthly than our entire industry. Yamamoto barely glanced at the report. Let them produce 10,000. Quantity cannot replace quality. June 15, 1943. Over Oro Bay, New Guinea, 8:47 hours. Ishikawa was leading a patrol of 6 Zeros when his wingman called out the contact. Large aircraft, 12 o'clock high, 28,000 feet. Ishikawa squinted into the morning sun and saw the formation. 8 aircraft, unusually large for fighters. At 8:49 hours, he ordered attack formation. At 8:51 hours, his Zero reached attack position below the formation. He pulled up, expecting the American fighters to turn into him as all previous combats had trained him. At 8:51 hours and 34 seconds, the P-47's dove. The speed was impossible. Ishikawa's airspeed indicator showed his Zero at maximum level flight speed, 287 knots. The American fighters accelerated past him in a dive that seemed to violate physics. At 8:52 hours, the lead P-47 opened fire from 400 yards, 8.50 caliber machine guns. Ishikawa had never experienced this volume of fire. His wingman's Zero disintegrated. No smoke, no fire, simply structural failure under the weight of armor-piercing and incendiary rounds. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 4 seconds. Kill time, 4 seconds. At 8:52 hours and 18 seconds, a second Zero exploded. The pilot, Warrant Officer Takahashi, had 73 combat missions. Kill time, 6 seconds. At 8:52 hours and 31 seconds, a third Zero fell away trailing smoke and flame. Kill time, 7 seconds. Ishikawa attempted a climbing turn. His Zero could turn inside any American fighter he had previously faced. The P-47's didn't turn. They dove past, accelerated to speeds exceeding 450 knots, climbed back to altitude using energy retention the Zero couldn't match, and dove again. At 8:53 hours and 12 seconds, a fourth Zero was destroyed. Kill time, 8 seconds. Ishikawa dove for cloud cover at 8,000 feet. 2 Zeros followed. The formation of 6 Japanese fighters that had engaged at 8:51 hours suffered 4 destroyed and 2 survivors fleeing. Total engagement duration, 2 minutes 47 seconds. Enemy losses, 4 aircraft, 4 pilots killed. American losses, 0. 1 P-47 reported minor damage from a single 7.7 hit that didn't penetrate armor. Kill ratio, 4-0. The ammunition expended in this 2-minute, 47-second engagement exceeded Rabaul's monthly allocation for its entire fighter group of 42 aircraft. Ishikawa landed at 9:20 hours. His hands shook as he climbed from the cockpit. The maintenance crew chief asked about the missing wingmen. Ishikawa couldn't speak immediately. When he reached the operations bunker, Yamamoto was reviewing mission reports. "American fighters engaged us," Ishikawa said. "They dove and climbed. We couldn't follow. They didn't dogfight." Yamamoto frowned. "You attempted turning engagement." "Yes, sir. They didn't turn. They dove, fired, climbed away, dove again." "The speed, pilots who panic see speed they cannot explain. Your formation broke discipline." "Sir, 4 aircraft destroyed in less than 3 minutes. The firepower." Yamamoto dismissed him. Ishikawa walked out knowing what he'd witnessed but unable to make his commander understand. The mathematics had changed, but Rabaul Command hadn't received the equation. Intelligence dismissed the reports as combat stress and exaggeration. Yamamoto reviewed Ishikawa's debrief that evening. He noted, "Pilot claims American fighters achieved diving speeds exceeding 450 knots. This violates known performance parameters for all American fighter types. Pilot training will emphasize tactical discipline over panic responses." The report attributed losses to pilot error and combat inexperience of the deceased pilots, despite 3 of the 4 having 20-plus combat missions. The loss ratio was filed as 1:1, assuming unreported American losses. The mathematics remained comfortable for Japanese command. They would maintain this comfort for exactly 43 more days. Tanaka reported to headquarters in Rabaul with updated intelligence on July 8. The American fighter engaged at Oro Bay was designated P-47 Thunderbolt. Specifications: maximum speed 433 mph in level flight, diving speed exceeds 550 mph. 8.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns with 425 rounds per gun, total 3,400 rounds. Combat radius 475 miles with drop tanks. Service ceiling 43,000 feet. Rate of climb 3,120 feet per minute. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine produces 2,000 horsepower with turbo supercharger. He placed production documents on Yamamoto's desk. American production of P-47 aircraft, February 1943, 476 units. March 1943, 491 units. April 1943, 502 units. May 1943, 544 units. June 1943, 573 units. Current production rate, 19 daily from the Farmingdale facility alone. Additional production beginning at Evansville, Indiana facility. Yamamoto read the numbers with visible skepticism. American production of all fighter types, 5,847 monthly. Japanese production all types, 842 monthly. A single American facility dedicated to one fighter type exceeds our entire monthly fighter output. Yamamoto set the report aside. Impossible figures. American propaganda inflates production to demoralize our forces. American production at Republic Aviation Farmingdale facility. 573 P-47's in June 1943. Japanese production all fighter types all facilities. 842 aircraft June 1943. A single American factory building one aircraft type outproduced Japan's entire fighter industry by 68%. This single facility exceeded Japan's total zero production, which peaked at 498 in June 1943. Republic Aviation employed 23,000 workers at Farmingdale. Japan's aircraft industry employed approximately 180,000. American productivity per worker exceeded Japanese by 943%. They tried altitude tactics. The P-47's turbo-supercharger gave it performance at 40,000 feet where Zeros couldn't operate. They attempted standing patrols to intercept before P-47's gained altitude. The Americans flew high patrol from the start. They employed large formations to overwhelm individual P-47's through numerical advantage. The P-47's 8 machine guns had more total firepower than 4 Zeros combined. They attacked from below, hoping to exploit what they believed was a less maneuverable aircraft. The P-47 dove away at speeds the Zero couldn't approach, climbed back, and attacked from altitude advantage again. July 21, 1943, over Lee, New Guinea, 11:34 hours. 16 Zeros rose to intercept B-25 bombers with P-47 escort. Ishikawa flew wing position. At 11:42 hours, 12 P-47's dove from 32,000 feet. At 11:43 hours, the first Zero exploded. Kill time, 8 seconds. At 11:43 hours and 19 seconds, a second Zero fell. Kill time, 11 seconds. At 11:43 hours and 35 seconds, a third Zero was destroyed. Kill time, 9 seconds. At 11:44 hours and 2 seconds, a fourth Zero went down. Kill time, 7 seconds. At 11:44 hours and 28 seconds, a fifth Zero was destroyed. Kill time, 12 seconds. The Zeros scattered. P-47's pursued individual aircraft, caught them in dives, destroyed them with focused fire from 8 guns. At 11:45 hours and 11 seconds, a sixth Zero was destroyed. Kill time, 14 seconds. At 11:45 hours and 44 seconds, a seventh Zero fell. Kill time, 10 seconds. At 11:46 hours and 20 seconds, an eighth Zero was destroyed. Kill time, 13 seconds. Total engagement duration, 4 minutes 51 seconds. Enemy losses, 8 aircraft, 7 pilots killed, 1 pilot recovered wounded. American losses, 0. Kill ratio, 8-0. The ammunition expended in this engagement exceeded Rabaul and Lee airfields' combined monthly allocation. The fuel consumed in this engagement by 12 P-47's exceeded Lee airfield's weekly allocation for all operations. Ishikawa landed at Lee having witnessed the systematic destruction of half his squadron. His flight report stated, "The Americans possess decisive technical advantage. Their aircraft performance exceeds ours in speed, climb, altitude, and firepower. Only turning radius favors the Zero, but enemy tactics prevent turning engagements. Current combat doctrine cannot counter P-47 boom and zoom tactics." Tanaka presented his analysis to Combined Fleet Headquarters on July 28. His report contained detailed specifications, combat reports from 14 separate engagements, production statistics, and tactical recommendations. The P-47 negates our tactical advantages. We must develop new aircraft and tactics or concede air superiority. The response came from Admiral Kusaka. Intelligence has determined P-47 performance reports are exaggerated. Continue current operations. Yamamoto read Tanaka's report and filed it with a notation. Intelligence officer displays excessive concern over single American aircraft type. Combat losses within acceptable parameters. The combat losses in July had been 42 fighters to P-47 specifically, with documented American losses of 3 P-47s. This 14:1 ratio was officially recorded as 7:1, assuming unreported American losses. Ishikawa observed the escalation through August. P-47s appeared in increasing numbers. Where June had seen occasional contact with 4 to 8 aircraft, August brought formations of 24 or more. On August 14, 36 P-47s escorted bombers to Wewak. Japanese defenders launched 48 Zeros. The engagement lasted 7 minutes. 21 Zeros were destroyed. 2 P-47s were damaged, none lost. The kill ratio was 21-0 for destroyed aircraft, though Japanese command recorded it as 11-2 crediting claims from pilots who reported seeing American fighters smoking. No American fighters smoking that day failed to return to base. The actual ratio remained 21-0. The mathematics were becoming undeniable, yet Rabaul Command continued to dismiss reports as pilot demoralization. Evansville, Indiana, August 1943. Republic Aviation's new facility in Evansville operated 3 shifts producing P-47D aircraft at maximum capacity. The facility achieved 12 aircraft daily output by August 15. Every 6 hours, another Thunderbolt reached completion. This single facility produced more than Japan's 0 production across all factories combined. Margaret Sullivan, previously a telephone operator in Louisville, Kentucky, operated wing assembly equipment that installed .50 caliber machine gun bays. Her station completed 8 complete wing assemblies per shift. Each wing held 4 M2 Browning machine guns, 4 ammunition boxes, feeding systems, and charging mechanisms. She installed the weapons systems for 16 machine guns per shift. Japan's entire Rabaul Armory held 180 machine guns total, including aircraft weapons, anti-aircraft weapons, and infantry weapons. Margaret's single shift output would rearm 8% of Rabaul's entire arsenal. Her weekly output exceeded Japanese monthly machine gun production for the entire Papua campaign. Americans discarded defective machine gun barrels. Quality control standards rejected barrels with microscopic imperfections. A single day's rejected barrels, approximately 47 barrels, weighed 564 pounds of high-grade steel. Japan's allocation of aviation-grade steel to Rabaul maintenance facilities was 240 pounds monthly. The waste from quality control exceeded combat theater allocation by 235%. Workers threw away wing panels that failed stress testing. A failed wing panel contained 180 pounds of aluminum alloy, 3,400 rivets, 120 feet of wire, and 47 structural components. Japan rationed damaged 0 wings for repair rather than replacement. American factories discarded what Japanese facilities would consider irreplaceable assets. The cafeteria at Evansville facility discarded more coffee daily than Japan allocated to the entire 8th Area Army for monthly consumption. Daily coffee waste, 140 pounds. Monthly allocation to 8th Area Army, 90 pounds. American factory workers drank more coffee in 1 week than Japanese combat soldiers received in 6 months. Aluminum shavings from daily production exceeded Japan's monthly allocation for field repairs across the entire Solomons campaign. Daily aluminum waste from Evansville, 1,247 pounds. Monthly allocation for Solomons repair facilities, 940 pounds. Machine oil used in testing and discarded after single use exceeded Japan's monthly allocation for 3 air bases. Testing protocols required fresh oil for each engine test run. Used oil was discarded. Daily discarded oil, 840 gallons. Monthly allocation to Rabaul, Lee, and Wewak combined, 620 gallons. Every paragraph bore the same truth. This single facility exceeded Japan's entire Pacific manufacturing and supply capacity. Tanaka received intelligence reports in September detailing American production expansion. 3 P-47 production facilities now operated, Farmingdale, Evansville, and Curtis Wright in Buffalo beginning conversion. Combined output projected to exceed 1,000 P-47s monthly by December. He compiled the report with shaking hands. Republic Aviation Farmingdale, 644 P-47s in August. Republic Aviation Evansville, 336 P-47s in August. Combined, 980 P-47s in 1 month. Japanese fighter production all types, 856 aircraft in August. A single American aircraft type from 2 factories exceeded Japan's entire fighter production across 13 major facilities and 47 subcontractors. The mathematics were catastrophic. October 12, 1943. Over Rabaul, New Britain, 14:20 hours. Yamamoto led the defense of Rabaul personally. 72 Zeros rose to intercept an American raid. 48 P-47s escorted the bombers. The engagement lasted 11 minutes. At 14:20 hours, 16 Zeros engaged the P-47 escort. At 14:22 hours, 7 Zeros had been destroyed. Kill time per aircraft averaged 11 seconds. At 14:24 hours, 8 more Zeros engaged. At 14:26 hours, 6 were destroyed. 0 American losses. At 14:28 hours, Yamamoto led his personal section of 12 fighters in a coordinated attack. The P-47 split, dove, and climbed. At 14:29 hours, 4 more Zeros fell. At 14:30 hours, 6 more were destroyed. At 14:31 hours, Yamamoto's aircraft was hit by concentrated fire from 3 P-47's. 8.50 caliber guns per aircraft, 24 guns total focused on his Zero. The aircraft disintegrated. Lieutenant Colonel Takeshi Yamamoto, 17 victories, veteran of Pearl Harbor, China, and 2 years of Pacific combat, died at 14:31 hours and 14 seconds. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 27 seconds. His Zero fell into St. George's Channel. His body was never recovered. Enemy aircraft destroyed in this engagement, 27 Zeros, 4 dive bombers. American losses, 1 P-47 damaged, pilot recovered. Kill ratio, 31-0 for destroyed aircraft. The ammunition expended in this 11-minute engagement exceeded Rabaul's monthly allocation for all aircraft operations. Total rounds fired by P-47's, approximately 76,000 rounds. Rabaul monthly allocation, 63,000 rounds. The fuel consumed exceeded Rabaul's weekly allocation. P-47 fuel consumption for 48 aircraft in combat, approximately 14,400 gallons. Rabaul weekly allocation for all fighter operations, 12,000 gallons. Ishikawa survived because he had been assigned ground duty that day. He stood on the airfield watching the engagement. The volume of fire visible from 20 miles away resembled a fireworks display. He counted aircraft falling. When the raid ended and surviving Zeros landed, 27 aircraft failed to return. The American formation flew home intact except for 1 aircraft trailing smoke. This wasn't combat. This was systematic annihilation. November 1943, Singapore, Malaya. Tanaka testified before combined fleet staff officers assembled to address the deteriorating air situation. He stood before 12 senior officers and presented 2 years of compiled intelligence. We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. American production of P-47 aircraft from January through October 1943, 5,847 units. Japanese production all fighter types same period, 8,420 units. A single American factory, Republic Aviation Farmingdale, produced 5,300 P-47's in this period. This single factory produced more of one aircraft type than we produced of all types across our entire industrial base. American production capacity doesn't just exceed ours. It exceeds our maximum theoretical capacity, even if we could convert every factory in Japan and Manchuria to aircraft production. We calculated this. At maximum theoretical conversion, assuming unlimited materials and labor which we don't possess, Japan could produce 1,400 fighters monthly. America is currently producing 6,000 fighters monthly and expanding. Ishikawa provided combat testimony. I saw 4 Zeros destroyed in under 3 minutes. I witnessed formations of 20 destroyed in single engagements. The Americans don't just outproduce us, they revolutionized production itself. Their pilots fly aircraft built in weeks. When they lose one, 2 more arrive the next month. When we lose one, we wait 3 months for replacement. The P-47 isn't simply a better fighter. It represents an industrial capacity we cannot match. The staff recorded testimony from 6 additional surviving pilots. Common themes emerged in every statement. We brought swords to a machine war. Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. They could lose 100 aircraft and replace them in 8 days. We lose 100 and require 4 months. The mathematics were absolute. One American factory exceeded our entire empire's industrial output. Production statistics stated by Tanaka for the record. American fighter production October 1943, 6,284 aircraft. Japanese fighter production October 1943, 879 aircraft. Single American factory Republic Farmingdale October production, 702 P-47's. Entire Japanese fighter industry October production, 879 aircraft all types. Their waste exceeded our production. Their testing consumption exceeded our combat allocation. Their cafeteria food exceeded our pilot rations. We were not fighting an enemy nation. We were fighting an industrial revolution. The report concluded, current kill ratios favor American forces 11-1 specifically for P-47 engagements. Japanese pilot losses are unsustainable. Aircraft losses exceed production capacity by 340%. Replacement pilot training has been reduced from 3 years to 7 months due to demand. Pilot quality declining. American pilot quality improving. Technical advantage. Categorical American superiority. Industrial advantage. Incomparable American superiority. Tactical advantage. American boom and zoom tactics negate Japanese maneuverability advantages. Strategic recommendation. Negotiate peace immediately. Continuation guarantees total defeat. The recommendation was filed and ignored. Combat operations continued. American production accelerated. By December 1943, P-47 production exceeded 1,000 monthly. Japanese production all types fell to 731 monthly due to material shortages. The ratio that began at 1 in early 1943 had become 17:1 by year's end, not in combat losses, in production capacity. The combat loss ratios remained approximately 11:1 through 1944, eventually reaching 14:1 by 1945 as American pilot training improved and Japanese pilot quality declined through attrition of experienced aviators. The P-47 proved that democratic industrial systems could outproduce authoritarian command economies by categorical margins. Free workers in Farmingdale and Evansville outproduced conscripted laborers and slave workers across the Japanese Empire. Dorothy Henderson at her riveting station, producing components for 17 aircraft daily, demonstrated higher productivity than entire Japanese factory complexes. Robert Washington installing 38 engines daily exceeded Japan's entire engine industry. Margaret Sullivan assembling weapons systems for 16 machine guns per shift outproduced Japanese armories. These weren't exceptional workers. They were representative of American industrial capacity. Democratic cooperation exceeded totalitarian command. Industrial abundance buried ideological claims of superiority under 7 tons of armor, 8 machine guns, and 2,000 horsepower per aircraft rolling off American production lines every 90 minutes. Women who had been seamstresses built fighters. Black workers who faced discrimination at home produced more than Japan's empire of 70 million people. $a-year executives from private industry managed production that exceeded Axis planning. The system wasn't perfect. It was simply functional enough to produce 17 P-47s daily from a single facility, while Japan struggled to produce 28 aircraft daily across its entire empire. Free markets, voluntary cooperation, and democratic institutions generated productive capacity that militaristic command systems couldn't approach. The Japanese system prioritized military expansion over industrial development, conquest over production, control over efficiency. The American system did the opposite. Industrial capacity preceded military action. Production determined strategy rather than strategy demanding impossible production. April 7, 1943, Lieutenant Colonel Yamamoto had laughed at the P-47's 7-ton weight. October 12, 1943, that same aircraft killed him in 27 seconds. His mockery lasted 6 months and 5 days. The P-47 he dismissed destroyed 3,752 Japanese aircraft, killed 5,163 Japanese pilots, and contributed decisively to air superiority that enabled American advance across the Pacific. His mockery became history's most quantifiable miscalculation, measured precisely in production statistics, kill ratios, and the systematic annihilation of Japanese air power by an aircraft he considered too heavy to fight. August 15, 1945, Atsugi Air Base, Japan. Lieutenant Kenji Tanaka stood in the ruins of what had been Combined Fleet Intelligence Headquarters, now relocated to a damaged hangar at Atsugi. He held the final production report. American P-47 production, January 1943 through August 1945, 15,636 aircraft. Japanese fighter production all types, same period, 28,180 aircraft. The single P-47 type, produced by 3 American factories, totaled 55% of Japan's entire fighter production across 47 major facilities and 340 subcontractors operating across 4 years. Flight Petty Officer Saburo Ishikawa sat across from him. 14 victories recorded in 1942. 0 victories recorded after June 1943. Not because he stopped flying, he logged 247 additional combat hours, but because survival replaced offense in the air war. "We counted them," Ishikawa said, reviewing his logbook. "Every P-47 I saw, every engagement." He had documented 183 separate encounters with P-47s. His squadron had engaged P-47s in 47 major actions. His unit's losses in those engagements: 124 aircraft, 97 pilots killed. Confirmed P-47 losses in those same engagements: 8 aircraft, 6 pilots killed. The ratio was 15-5-1. "The mathematics were always there," Tanaka said. "I showed them in May 1943. They had the numbers in June. By July it was undeniable." Republic Aviation Farmingdale Facility final production total: 9,077 P-47s from December 1941 through October 1945. This single facility produced more fighters of one type than Japan produced of all types in any single year of the war. Peak Japanese fighter production occurred in 1944, 8,497 aircraft. Farmingdale alone exceeded this in 2.1 years of production. Republic Aviation Evansville Facility final production total: 6,242 P-47s from June 1943 through December 1945. This single facility's total exceeded Japan's 1943 fighter production of 5,688 aircraft. Curtiss Wright Buffalo Facility final production total: 354 P-47GS from March 1943 through December 1943. Even the smallest American P-47 production facility exceeded monthly Japanese output for multiple months. "I calculated the waste," Tanaka continued, pulling another report. "American aluminum waste from P-47 production over 32 months, 4.7 million pounds. Japanese total aluminum allocation to Pacific Theater repairs for 45 months of war, 2.1 million pounds. They threw away more than twice what we used in combat." Ishikawa nodded. He had witnessed this disparity from the cockpit. "At Rabaul in November 1943, we received 17 replacement Zeros. We celebrated. That same month, I watched 50 P-47s arrive at Port Moresby in one day. They had so many they parked them off the runway." The ammunition accounting revealed similar disparities. American .50 caliber ammunition production for P-47s specifically: approximately 4.2 billion rounds over the war. Japanese 7.7 and 20 production for all fighters, approximately 2.8 billion rounds total. American production for one aircraft type exceeded Japanese production for all types by 50%. More telling, American .50 caliber ammunition testing and waste: approximately 420 million rounds discarded or expended in testing. Japanese frontline allocation for all fighters across all Pacific bases for the entire war: approximately 380 million rounds. American waste exceeded Japanese combat allocation by 10%. "We were shooting rifles while they fired cannons," Ishikawa said, "except the mathematics were worse. They fired so many cannons it became normal. We rationed rifle ammunition." September 3, 1945, Tokyo Bay, USS Missouri. Tanaka was not present at the surrender ceremony, but he recorded the data afterward. American aircraft present over Tokyo Bay during signing: 462 aircraft. This aerial armada included 128 P-47NS from VII Fighter Command, Iwo Jima. The formation of P-47s alone exceeded Japan's total serviceable fighter strength on September 3, 1945, which intelligence estimated at 117 aircraft across all home islands. American forces displayed more of one fighter type in one demonstration than Japan could muster across its entire remaining air force. The single formation demonstrated superior production capacity more eloquently than any statistics. The P-47N variant present at the surrender represented the final evolution. Maximum range: 2,350 miles with external tanks. Combat radius: 1,000 miles. This single variant possessed range exceeding any Japanese fighter ever produced. The A-6M50's maximum range of 1,929 miles required internal fuel and external tanks with no combat reserve. The P-47N could fly 1,000 miles, fight for 30 minutes, and return home. Japanese pilots flew 900 miles, fought until fuel starvation, and ditched at sea hoping for rescue. Production of P-47N variant alone: 1,816 aircraft from September 1944 through September 1945. Japanese fighter production all types September 1944 through September 1945, 9,443 aircraft. The final American P-47 variant, produced in 1 year, totaled 19% of Japan's entire fighter production in the same period. Tanaka compiled the final statistics for the historical record demanded by occupation authorities. P-47 combat record, Pacific Theater, 3,752 Japanese aircraft destroyed in air combat, 3,202 Japanese aircraft destroyed on ground. Total, 6,954 enemy aircraft destroyed. P-47 losses to enemy action, 824 aircraft. Kill ratio, 8-4, 1 overall 11-2, 1 for air combat only. He paused over those numbers. Japanese fighter pilot losses 1943-1945, all causes, 14,242 killed in action. P-47s accounted for approximately 5,163 pilot deaths based on correlation with aircraft destroyed. One American aircraft type killed more Japanese pilots than we graduated from flight training in 1944. Japanese pilot training production 1944, 5,474 graduates. P-47 caused pilot deaths 1943-1945, 5,163. American production of one fighter type killed 94% of 1 year's entire Japanese pilot training output. The numbers contained implications Tanaka documented methodically. Training time for Japanese pilot 1942, 24 months. Training time Japanese pilot 1944, 4 months due to demand. Training time American P-47 pilot 1943, 18 months. Training time American P-47 pilot 1944, 14 months. Quality divergence, Japanese training contracted while American training remained comprehensive. Results, Japanese pilot life expectancy in combat 1943, 12 missions. Japanese pilot life expectancy 1944, 6 missions. Japanese pilot life expectancy 1945, 2 missions. American P-47 pilot life expectancy throughout, 47 missions average. October 1945, Yokohama Port. Ishikawa stood watching American cargo ships unload supplies for occupation forces. The volume exceeded anything he had seen during the war. "How much?" he asked the American supply officer through an interpreter. "This convoy," the lieutenant checked his manifest. 4 ships, total cargo 14,000 tons, food, fuel, construction materials, medical supplies. Ishikawa did the mathematics automatically now. Japanese supply convoy to Rabaul, largest ever assembled, November 1943, 8 ships, 9,200 tons, 1/3 lost to submarines. The American lieutenant looked confused by the comparison. Ishikawa didn't explain further. The American occupation convoy delivering humanitarian supplies exceeded Japan's largest combat supply effort by 52%. They had brought more food for defeated enemies than Japan could transport to its own combat forces at the height of its power. The accounting continued daily. American fuel allocation for occupation forces in Japan, October 1945, 1.2 million gallons weekly. Japanese fuel allocation for all Pacific air operations, peak month August 1944, 940,000 gallons monthly. American occupiers consumed more fuel in 1 week than Japanese forces consumed in an entire month at maximum operations. American food supply for occupation forces, 3,400 calories per man daily. Japanese military ration 1945, 1,200 calories daily when available. American soldiers occupying Japan ate better than Japanese soldiers had eaten while winning victories in 1942. The disparity permeated every category of logistics, equipment, and supply. Tanaka compiled the industrial analysis for occupation authorities. Republic Aviation total employment peak 1944, 34,000 workers across 2 facilities. Japanese aircraft industry total employment peak 1944, 784,000 workers across 47 major facilities and 340 subcontractors. American productivity per worker, 0.46 aircraft annually. Japanese productivity per worker, 0.036 aircraft annually. American workers were 12.8 times more productive per capita. He added the notation. This disparity increased when accounting for aircraft complexity. P contained approximately 1,400 horsepower per ton of aircraft weight. A6M50 contained approximately 580 horsepower per ton. American aircraft delivered more capability per unit of industrial effort. November 1945, Sugamo Prison, Tokyo. Former Admiral Kusaka, who had dismissed Tanaka's intelligence reports in 1943, now provided testimony for war crimes tribunals. Tanaka attended as a witness for the prosecution, not of war crimes but of strategic failures. Did you receive intelligence reports on American P-47 production in July 1943? The prosecutor asked. Yes, Kusaka replied. Did these reports indicate American production exceeded Japanese production? Yes. Did you act on these reports? No. Why not? Kusaka paused. We believed the figures were propaganda. No nation could produce at those rates. Tanaka provided the documentation. Intelligence report dated July 15, 1943. American P-47 production June 1943, 573 units from single facility. Projected annual production, 6,876 units of one type from one facility. Japanese response, filed July 22, 1943. Intelligence assessment deemed unreliable. Figures exceed industrial capacity by credible margins. No action warranted. Actual American P-47 production 1943, 6,242 units. The intelligence estimate was accurate within 10%. The Japanese assessment was wrong by 100%. We showed them the mathematics, Tanaka testified. Production exceeded our entire industrial capacity. We documented it. They dismissed it as impossible, therefore it must be false. Reality didn't accommodate belief. The tribunal didn't charge Kusaka with crimes for dismissing intelligence. Incompetence wasn't criminal under international law, but the historical record documented the failure. Japanese command received accurate intelligence on American production capacity by July 1943, 15 months before effective defeat became inevitable. Action at that point, negotiated settlement, resource reallocation, tactical adaptation, might have preserved something. Instead, they continued operations against an opponent producing fighters faster than Japan could train pilots to face them. They told us 8.50 caliber guns couldn't fit in a fighter, Ishikawa said during his testimony. Then they told us a 7-ton fighter couldn't maneuver. Then they told us American production figures were propaganda. Every excuse ended the same way: more pilots dead, more aircraft destroyed, nothing changed. He pulled his logbook. I logged 559 combat hours. I survived because I learned one rule: never turn with P-47s, never chase them. Never assume you have any advantage except tighter turn radius, which they won't allow you to use. I survived by running away efficiently. The tribunals documented the P-47's role in the systematic destruction of Japanese air power. Statistical summary entered as evidence. P-47 operations began Pacific Theater June 1943. Japanese air superiority ended by December 1943. Japanese contested air superiority ended by June 1944. Japanese air resistance ceased being strategically relevant by October 1944. Timeline from P-47 introduction to Japanese air impotence, 16 months. The same summary documented parallel data. Time from P-47 introduction to Japan's industrial collapse becoming irreversible, 18 months. Time from P-47 introduction to ultimate surrender, 26 months. Correlation. Air superiority enabled unrestricted bombing campaign that destroyed industrial capacity that removed ability to resist that forced surrender. December 1945, Hiroshima. Tanaka and Ishikawa stood in the ruins, not to see the atomic bomb damage specifically, but to complete their accounting. The bomb killed 80,000 immediately, Tanaka said. Strategic bombing prior to August killed approximately 330,000 civilians. The P-47s enabled the bombers that killed 4 times more people than the atomic weapons. Ishikawa nodded. We couldn't stop the B-29s because the P-47s destroyed the fighters that might have stopped them. Every pilot we lost to P-47s in 1943 was a pilot who couldn't defend Tokyo in 1945. The mathematics traced directly. Japanese pilot losses to P-47s 1943, approximately 1,200. Pilot training time 1943, 18 months. Those 1,200 pilots, if surviving to 1945, would have been experienced veterans. Instead, Japan sent 4-month trainees against B-29 formations. The 4-month trainees died in their first mission. The 18-month veterans might have survived long enough to matter. "We traded experienced pilots for time," Tanaka said. "Except we didn't gain time, we just lost pilots faster." American records documented B-29 losses to Japanese fighters. 414 B-29s lost to enemy fighters over Japan 1944-1945. Total B-29 sorties, 34,790. Loss rate, 1.2%. "If we had experienced pilots," Ishikawa said, "perhaps 2%, perhaps 3%. An additional 350 to 700 B-29s destroyed might have forced them to adjust tactics, reduce sortie rates, provide heavier escort. The P-47s prevented us from having experienced pilots by killing them in 1943 before they could defend Japan in 1945. The final accounting included one more category: money. American cost to produce 15,636 P-47s, approximately $783 million in 1943 dollars. Japanese cost to produce 28,180 fighters all types, approximately $1.4 billion in 1943 dollars, accounting for exchange rates and material costs. American cost per aircraft, $50,067. Japanese cost per aircraft, $49,681. The costs were nearly identical per aircraft. The difference lay in industrial efficiency, productive capacity, and systematic waste reduction through standardization. American factories produced twice as many of one type as Japan produced of all types at the same per-unit cost, with higher capability per aircraft. "They didn't spend more money," Tanaka concluded. "They spent the same money better." January 1946, War History Compilation Office, Tokyo. Tanaka and Ishikawa prepared their final report for the historical record. "Lessons from the P-47 in Pacific combat," the document began. They wrote for 8 hours, reducing the war to its essential truth. "The P-47 demonstrated that industrial capacity determines military outcomes more than courage, training, or tactical doctrine. Japanese pilots were courageous. Japanese training in 1942 exceeded American training. Japanese tactical doctrine emphasized proven concepts. None of this mattered against an opponent who produced fighters faster than we could destroy them and trained pilots faster than we could kill them." The report continued. American advantages: 1. Industrial capacity exceeding Japanese by 12, 1 per worker productivity. 2. Resource access without constraint. 3. Production standardization enabling mass production. 4. Technological superiority in engines, superchargers, weapons, and materials. 5. Tactical flexibility adapting to technical capabilities rather than traditional doctrine. 6. Strategic depth allowing pilot training to continue uninterrupted while combat proceeded. 7. Demographic reserves providing unlimited replacement personnel. Japanese disadvantages: 1. Industrial capacity constrained by population, resources, and technological limitations. 2. Resource access requiring extended supply lines vulnerable to interdiction. 3. Production diversity preventing standardization and mass production. 4. Technological limitations in engines, materials, and manufacturing. 5. Tactical rigidity emphasizing traditional doctrine over adaptation. 6. Strategic vulnerability preventing sustained pilot training. 7. Demographic limitations providing finite replacement personnel. "The P-47 didn't win the war alone," their conclusion stated, "but it exemplified every American advantage and exploited every Japanese weakness. It was heavy because America could build powerful engines. It carried 8 guns because America produced ammunition without constraint. It was produced in thousands because American factories could scale production. It was flown by adequately trained pilots because America could train while fighting. It defeated lighter, more maneuverable fighters because American doctrine adapted tactics to technical capability, rather than demanding techniques serve tradition." Final assessment: Japan could not have defeated the P-47 because the P-47 represented systematic advantages across industrial, technological, tactical, and strategic domains. Defeating the P-47 would have required becoming the industrial democracy that produced it. Japan chose empire. America chose production. Production defeated empire. The mathematics were absolute from the beginning. We simply refused to accept the equation. They submitted the report to occupation authorities. Douglas MacArthur's headquarters filed it in the military history section. Tanaka and Ishikawa never learned if anyone read it. They had completed the accounting. The numbers were final. 15,636 P-47's, 6,954 Japanese aircraft destroyed, 5,163 Japanese pilots killed. The costs were tallied, the lessons documented, the truth recorded. The Americans had dismissed Japanese mockery with 8 machine guns, 7 tons of fighter, and 17 aircraft produced daily from a single factory. The P-47 wasn't an aircraft. It was proof that free peoples mobilized for war possessed advantages that empires could not replicate and militarist regimes could not defeat. The mathematics remained undeniable. Production defeated ideology, and industrial democracy buried military aristocracy under the weight of overwhelming material superiority. The lesson remains evident in every conflict since, dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace or underestimating free people's productive capacity when mobilized invites catastrophic miscalculation. The P-47 wasn't simply an aircraft. It was proof that free societies at war possess advantages that authoritarian systems cannot replicate. Industrial democracy defeated military aristocracy. Factory workers defeated warrior traditions. 8.50 caliber machine guns defeated Bushido. The mathematics were final. Production defeated philosophy, and abundance buried ideology under weight of overwhelming material superiority that transformed 7-ton fighters from objects of mockery into instruments of absolute victory.